And I'm a big rooter for CNN, but that tells you a lot, doesn't it? I mean, how do you guys think you are doing in that arena of like, this is a terribly divided country. We're not only politicized, a lot of people just hate the other side. And CNN, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch. How do you think you're doing with it?
CNN is the place where both sides can watch. And I think, my show is evidence of that. We have lawmakers on from both parties. We'll have Elizabeth Warren on one night. We'll have Ted Cruz on another night. I think lawmakers from both parties should take questions and you should push both.
It was Bill Maher, again Kaitlan Collins, CNN's ostensibly rational voice, was appalled by the complete surprise of entering the lion's lair. Funny, savage, and long overdue. If you think Maher has given up on media hypocrisy, you should think otherwise. This quick clip served as the introduction to a lengthy masterclass. Maher not only exposed her political bias and woke agenda, but he also ruined everything, leaving her clinging to anything that could be construed as a response.
I disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
And all that happened on Friday night. The administration fired several inspectors general without giving Congress the 30-day legally required notification that they were being fired. I think only 2 were left at DHS and the DOJ. And then yesterday we saw several prosecutors, I believe 12, fired from the Justice Department who worked on the investigations into the president. As you know, they are career prosecutors, therefore they are afforded civil service protections. How is the administration deciding which laws to follow and which ones to?
Since she was appointed White House press secretary, Bill Maher has been annoyed by the left's outrage over Karoline Leavitt. In addition to the typical culprits in the press corps, such as Jim Asta and Kaitlan Collins, as well as the laughing panel on The View, the attacks have been ongoing and have included their entire plan. Kaitlan asked Karoline about Trump's decision to fire some prosecutors, which was entirely within his authority, hoping that she might reconsider. We knew this, and so did her. She didn't. In case you missed it, Karoline's sharp and blistering response caused everything to come apart. But Kaitlan wasn't ready to let up and was so intent on trapping her that she doubled down.
Confident that if they bring lawsuits against you, the prosecutors who were fired, that they will succeed.
We will win in court.
And did he personally direct this, given they worked on the classified documents investigation and the election interference investigation?
This was a memo that went out by the Presidential Personnel Office, and the President is the leader of this White House.
Can you see why Bill Maher was so upset he could not bear the obvious hypocrisy of the left and followed them like a wrecking ball on a tier? However, before we do that, let's examine Kaitlan Collins doing what she does best, asking succinct questions, asserting herself boldly, and employing her haughty, snarky tone. Karoline L. had long expected it to be the same old playbook, confuse, corner, conquer, so she didn't trust it. She completely botched the main topic, which was whether Trump could remove Lev and DOJ prosecutors, rather of just providing an answer. The story claims that Trump exercised his executive authority, which is permitted by law. The comedy, however, really begins to flow at this point. As if legal facts were more important than sentiments, Kaitlan was unable to take the message and continued to argue endlessly about Norton's values and the wider picture. Meanwhile, Leavitt stood composedly and delivered a brilliant lecture on how to discredit woke narratives using only the truth.
I'm a big rooter for CNN, but that tells you a lot, doesn't it? I mean, how do you guys think you are doing in that arena of like, this is a terribly divided country. We're not only politicized, a lot of people just hate the other side. And CNN, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch. How do you think?
While Kaitlan Collins asked a series of complex questions, each more challenging than the last, Leavitt remained clever and composed, refusing to be duped or sidetracked by word games. Leavitt cut through the chaos like a hot knife and came right to the issue, no matter how Kaitlan tried to twist it with legalese, moral posturing, or flinching concern. Leavitt stayed calm and said nothing, but in a different packet he gave the same clear answer. Leavitt provided the answers, but he also revealed the game. Thus, Trump was permitted to fire him. Thanks to Leavitt's astute approach, the only soundbite worth playing was the actuality. Kaitlan was going for a soundbite, not clarity. Maher decided to set up a trap and give Kaitlan a taste of her own medicine because he was tired of the young press secretary being unfairly singled out. A masterclass in dismantling media bias was provided by Grace Witt and rock-solid confidence.
Conservative in America, and I'm watching CNN, just for the straight middle of the road. That's what I hear for 15 minutes. It's great, and then Lonely Scott. It does look, I mean, and when you see the path, it does look like tokenism. It's kind of like the same as The View. It's like it's almost better to have nobody there, like MSNBC, than to have this person.
CNN takes pride in presenting itself as the epitome of objective, fact-based news. When you look more closely, that picture spontaneously breaks apart. In fact, the network leans left, as evidenced by the stories it promotes, the people it invites, and the questions it poses. They not only broadcast the news, but also modify, twist, and manipulate it to suit their own interests. Knowing this all too well, Maher chooses to reverse the situation and catch Kaitlan in the very trap she attempted to set for Karoline Leavitt. Then he sees her walk into Maher's setup. Kaitlan begins with the standard public relations pitch, asserting that CNN is an impartial and equitable platform where people from different political backgrounds can freely express their opinions. She gives some interesting examples to support her argument. Ted Cruz and Elizabeth Warren are two examples of well-known individuals who have been brought up as though doing so somehow ensures ideological balance. Here's the catch, though. A cherry, the network's obvious left-leaning bias remains unaffected by a few appearances. It would be like referring to a single green grape in a bowl of red ones as a fruit. The questions are nearly always serious, even if Crew only receives 5 minutes of TV time. Following the interview, a panel and disparaging remarks primed should check the facts if something doesn't fit their agenda. In addition to being weak, Kaitlan's argument was ludicrous since, if CNN were truly impartial, she wouldn't need to bring up those infrequent conservative guests like collector's goods. After falling into Bill Maher's trap, Kaitlan is now witnessing his destruction of her.
IG report from the Social Security Administration, there was $71 billion worth of fraud in one single fiscal year that we know about. And so that is a lot of fraud, Peter.
To be clear, that $71 billion was from 2015 to 2022, so it wasn't in just 1 year. And it was
$71 billion.
But it wasn't in 1 year, just over multiple years, from 2015 to 2022.
So are you defending $71 billion in fraud, Peter? That's a lot of money. Why is the media so against cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from the government? I don't get it.
I just want to ask
We won't be deterred. We will not be deterred from people like
Token appearances, it turns out, are the very antithesis of an impartial outlet. He not only identified it, but also undermined the argument. According to Maher, it's worse to have a conservative on the panel occasionally than to have none at all if it is entirely left-leaning. Viewers continue to act objectively while secretly promoting a completely bogus agenda, even if they are well aware of what they are getting without holding back. Maher criticized Kaitlan and CNN for ignoring conservative opinions in favor of the left-wing awakening. They want to emphasize optics above balanced fare, but not quite. Furthermore, Maher claims that when conservatives do appear, they are frequently cut off, misquoted, fact-checked on the fly, and portrayed as villains in a badly written script. According to Maher, CNN's neutrality mask not only incites hatred, but also misleads. Adopting a left-leaning stance is not only dishonest, but it also runs the risk of misleading your audience into believing they are hearing both sides. Following the mayor's first shot across the bow, you would think Kaitlan and her woke crew would be more subtle in their attacks on Leavitt, but they did the exact opposite. One of them is attempting to corner Departed once more.
You said that they have found before that they believe there have been tens of millions of people who are receiving money who are dead on the Social Security list. The same report that you referred to said that almost none of those individuals are receiving.
Peter, did you watch the full clip of the interview that I did when I said that? And I said there are a lot of unanswered questions, and we suspect there could be tens of millions of people.
I'm saying the IG report.
So you just said what I said is not true. In fact, it was true. That's a suspicion that this administration.
Shocking revelation: the Trump government was prepared to shut it down after discovering an astounding $71 billion swindle. But this is where things went wrong. Likely a linguistic blunder. Karoline's claim that the fraud was uncovered in a single fiscal year was enough for the woke press. The moment they smelt blood, they acted like vultures, believing that a small lie would be their next opportunity to get even. Leavitt, however, did more than just avoid the trap. She completely changed the plot. She was cool under pressure and more shrewd than ever. She then responded by posing a query that stunned the press. Are you really attempting to defend the $71 billion in fraud that the American people have had to bear when they obviously weren't going to deal with that one right away following a language blunder? The focus of the story changed to something even more embarrassing. The media's true priorities since the game had been revealed. They were more focused on preserving their story than on stopping the fraud. The awakened press, like a herd of hyenas, was a masterclass in transforming media bias into a self-inflicted wound, but they fought back because they weren't going to let up until they got what they deserved.